Two bodies believed to be Brown and her 2-year-old son, Ashton, were found in a burned car off Thurston Avenue on Monday, February 23rd. Police know Brown didn't come into work that weekend, and a co-worker reported her missing. Greensboro police need help finding the person who killed Asia Brown and her son.
Today, we shine light on Asia LaRose Brown and Ashton Paul Brown. Born in December 2092, Asia LaRose Brown lived in Greensboro, North Carolina, where she worked as a security officer at the Greensboro Auto Auction. Friends and coworkers remembered her as incredibly kind, dependable, and always willing to help anyone in need. She had earned a reputation for being responsible and reliable, someone who took pride in showing up, working hard, and keeping her commitments. Loved ones said Asia had a passion for music and described the 22-year-old as a joyful, independent young woman whose warm personality left a lasting impression. While she enjoyed spending time with family and friends, her greatest priority was always her son. Born in 2013, 2-year-old Ashton Paul Brown was a bright, energetic toddler with an infectious smile that could light up any room. Family members remembered him as playful, curious, and full of personality. Ashton enjoyed watching cartoons, playing with his favorite toys, and was absolutely fascinated with Mickey Mouse. In early 2015, Asia and Ashton were living in an apartment on Archer Street in Greensboro. Like many single mothers, Asia worked long hours while balancing the responsibilities of raising her son and relying on family and trusted friends for help with childcare when needed. It was a routine that allowed Asia to provide for her son while ensuring he was always cared for by someone she trusted. On Friday afternoon, February 20th, 2015, Asia left Greensboro headed to High Point. She had recently decided to replace her current vehicle due to ongoing car problems and planned to meet a private seller to buy a used 2005 Buick LaCrosse. After completing the purchase, at approximately 1:30 p.m., she arrived at the North Carolina Division of Motor Vehicles, where she registered the vehicle in her name. A short time later, she headed back to Greensboro and stopped at the AutoZone located on Roundover Road. Surveillance footage captured Asia entering the store at approximately 3:20 p.m., where she purchased car accessories and briefly engaged with a store employee. She appeared calm, she wasn't in a hurry, and everything seemed completely normal. According to investigators, there was nothing about her demeanor that suggested she was frightened, distressed, or in danger. That would be the last confirmed sighting of Asia alive. While it's believed that Ashton was with Asia at some point that day, he wasn't seen on surveillance inside the AutoZone with her. There have been conflicting reports about whether Ashton was with Asia at the DMV, but investigators have never confirmed if he appeared on the DMV surveillance footage. Investigators said they don't know if Ashton was waiting in the car, staying with a babysitter, or somewhere else entirely while Asia was out running errands. That unknown question would become one of the earliest mysteries surrounding the case. The remainder of Friday passed without anyone realizing something was terribly wrong. The first signs of trouble came the following day, Saturday, February 21st, when Asia failed to report to work as scheduled. For many people, missing a single day of work may not immediately raise concern, but for those who knew Asia, it was completely out of character. Friends described her as someone who was almost excessive about being on time. She took her job seriously and would never simply disappear without calling or letting someone know where she was. Those closest to her hoped there was a reasonable explanation, but when Asia failed to report to work for a second consecutive shift on Sunday, concern quickly grew into fear. After 2 days of unanswered texts and calls going straight to voicemail, her friends knew there was something seriously wrong. Her co-worker and close friend Brittany said she drove to Asia's apartment but got no answer. Brittany knew Asia would never just walk away from her responsibilities. The two had been friends since 2013 when they met while working at a restaurant and quickly developed a friendship. When they started working at Greensboro Auto Auction, They were often on opposite shifts, so they could sometimes take turns babysitting for each other. At approximately 6:45 p.m. on Sunday, February 22, 2015, Brittany contacted the Greensboro Police Department and reported both Asia and Ashton missing.
I have a friend that's missing. I haven't seen, she hasn't been to work in 2 days. She won't answer, like, no one's seen her for 2 days. I went by her apartment. There's no sign of her. She has mail, I guess forms or stuff in her door that she hasn't been home to check. So it's clear she hasn't been home. And it was concerning that her phone going straight to voicemail and has been for 2 days. She has said why she hasn't come to work, which is completely out of character. She's never missed work.
Okay, what's the address she was last seen?
I don't know. I the last time I spoke to her was Friday afternoon.
Okay.
And I haven't physically seen her in over a week. Well, about a week. I saw her last weekend, and I thought that was odd, but I said, well, maybe, he got sick or something, whatever. And after all day of calling and no response, she never called her supervisor to tell him why she didn't show up. She wouldn't do that. So I just, at this point, here it is 2 days later, and she still hasn't yet to contact anybody. We were making plans to go out to eat, and I told her that I'd rather just come over. So she said, that's fine. She said, I'm going to go get some stuff straight with my car because she's been looking for a car. So I assumed she was, browsing around the city, trying to find a deal or something like that, looking at different cars. And I said that I had my daughter, and if she could bring her son, it was fine, they could play. And I said, so just let me know. And she never responded to that text. I sent that text at 1:40, and she just stopped texting me back. She never responded again. I texted her that night. She didn't respond. She didn't show up for work that morning to relieve me. And her phone has been off ever since then.
Because both a young mother and her son had vanished together, the Greensboro Police Department wasted no time launching their investigation. They contacted family and friends, reviewed nearby surveillance footage to track Asia's recent movements, and examined her digital activity for any clues about her and Ashton's whereabouts.
Police know Brown didn't come into work that weekend, and a co-worker reported her missing, but they want to fill in the other blanks. The timeline shows Brown bought a 2005 black Buick LaCrosse and registered it at a High Point DMV on Friday, February 20th. Then a few hours later, she was caught on camera purchasing supplies at this AutoZone on Randleman Road.
The reason why that's so important is because we're looking for anybody that could have possibly seen her there or after that on that day.
At first, there was still hope that Asia and Ashton would be found safe, but that hope would soon be replaced by a discovery that would become one of Greensboro's most haunting unsolved mysteries. On the afternoon of Monday, February 23, 2015, less than 24 hours after Asia and Ashton were reported missing, city workers made a horrifying discovery. While driving along a secluded sewer service road off of Thurston Avenue near South Buffalo Creek, they spotted a burned vehicle hidden at the end of a dead-end access road, away from public view. As they approached the charred remains of the 2005 Buick LaCrosse, they noticed what appeared to be human bones inside the trunk. They immediately called the police. When investigators arrived to the scene, they believed the human remains were those of Asia and Ashton. But because the vehicle and human remains were almost completely destroyed by fire, investigators were unable to initially identify the victims.
The medical examiner's office hasn't positively identified the remains yet, but police are confident they are Brown and her son, and they hope to trigger someone's memory who may help them solve the mystery.
The fire and weather left few clues for investigators. A snowstorm the night the police found the car delayed the investigation in a field nearby. As crews worked to secure evidence, investigators began piecing together what happened.
Then, 2 weeks later, DNA testing confirmed what everyone had feared. The victims were 22-year-old Asia and 2-year-old Ashton. In an instant, what had begun as a desperate search for a missing mother and her son became a suspected double homicide. Months later, autopsies revealed they were both shot multiple times at close range. Investigators believe they had likely died from gunshot wounds before the Buick was deliberately set on fire.
On a Friday in February, 22-year-old Asia Brown bought accessories for her newly purchased Buick LaCrosse. 3 days later, on February 23rd, police showed up to this dead end. Just off the road, they discovered Asia's Buick burning. Asia and her 2-year-old son, Ashton, were in the trunk. The investigation revealed the two were murdered.
As crime scene investigators processed the isolated location, one conclusion became increasingly clear. Whoever committed these crimes had taken deliberate steps to conceal the identities of both victims and to destroy evidence. Investigators believe the crime was possibly planned. When the burned vehicle was inspected, they found that both license plates were removed. Investigators suspected this was an act to make identifying the car harder and delay the case. However, investigators located the charred license plates in the surrounding area.
2 bodies believed to be Brown and her 2-year-old son Ashton were found in a burned car off Thurston Avenue on Monday, February 23rd.
One of the first pieces of evidence that was located was a burned license plate. That license plate was the license plate that belonged to Miss Asia Brown's car.
They discovered the trunk had been lined with thick blue tarp before the bodies had been placed inside. The vehicle was then doused with gasoline both inside and out and set on fire. Forensic investigators traced the tarp's barcode to a product sold at Walmart. However, it is believed that the purchase was made with cash, and they were unable to determine the buyer's identity. Investigators said that the removal of the plates, the tarp, and the deliberate burning of the vehicle suggested a level of planning that extended well beyond a crime of impulse. As investigators worked to reconstruct Asia's final days, they uncovered another troubling detail. They learned that during the week leading up to their murders, Asia and Ashton had not been staying at their apartment on Orchard Street. Instead, they had been staying somewhere else. This dramatically expanded the number of people investigators needed to interview. To this day, law enforcement have never publicly disclosed who they were staying with during those final days.
We want to know who our victims are. We want to know where they work, what their habits are, relationships they're in or have been in, who their friends are.
When investigators obtained search warrants for Asia's email, cell phone, and social media accounts, they found that her cell phone and social media was active up until approximately 4 p.m. on Friday, February 20th, before abruptly going silent. Roughly 40 minutes after Asia left AutoZone, this digital blackout gave investigators the belief that the murders took place either that very day or soon after. Using the Buick's VIN number, detectives tracked down and spoke to the private seller who recently sold Asia the vehicle. They said the seller fully cooperated and was cleared of any involvement. Their identity has never been publicly released. They also interviewed Ashton's biological father, along with family members, friends, co-workers, and others who had recently been in contact with Asia. According to investigators, all of them cooperated and were not considered suspects at the time. Investigators have indicated that understanding Ashton's whereabouts on February 20th remains key to piecing together the family's last known movements and the missing link to the case.
Police say they've interviewed hundreds, but no leads.
This time we do not have a solid suspect in this case at all.
The last time Asia Brown was seen alive was at an AutoZone on Randleman Road, days before their bodies were found. At that time, her son Ashton was not seen in the store with her.
If Ashton was not with Asia at the AutoZone, where was he? That's a big if. We don't know that. That's why we're asking for help. Where did Asia go after she left the AutoZone? That's another if that we're looking for. So those are the things that are missing. The timeline stops at the AutoZone. If somebody saw the child that afternoon or kept the child, that would be very important for our investigation to know. And if they saw Asia or Ashton Brown after around 3:30 that afternoon, that would be very important for our investigation.
Detectives found no evidence suggesting Asia was involved in any criminal activity, and many believe the motive may have been personal. More than 11 years have passed, yet the murders of Asia and Ashton still remains unsolved. Investigators said they have spent years following leads, analyzing evidence, but answers remain elusive.
Despite releasing numerous details, leads on the case have come to a halt. Asia left the store at around 3:20 p.m. What happened in the 3 hours between her departure and her death still remains a mystery.
On the surface, Asia seemed to have built a trusted and supportive surrounding for herself and Ashton. So the haunting question is, who would want to harm this hard-working mother and her innocent son? and why. Stories like this remind us that even seemingly solid foundations can conceal hidden cracks, and that some of the most devastating tragedies emerge without warning. The person responsible didn't just take 2 lives, they stole 2 futures. Investigators believe someone holds the key to what happened that February afternoon, and that single piece of information could finally bring justice. If anyone has any information, please contact the Greensboro Police Department. No story should be forgotten, no voice should go unheard. Sending my deepest condolences and prayers to the family and friends. I pray you get the justice you deserve. May Asia and Ashton Brown rest in peace. Until the next time, I'm Block Jewel, and thank you for watching Shades of Crime. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and remember to pray. God's listening.